Welcome to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Today on A Well-Designed Business, I am talking with someone whose brain works very differently than mine, and this is one of the primary reasons why I have so much respect for her. You know, I say all the time, I'm not the COO type, the Chief Operating Officer type. That's the Vincennes and others in our field, right? I'm not the spreadsheet girl. I'm not the systems architect girl, but I deeply respect these types of people because they are the ones that work alongside us, helping us bring to life the ideas that we feel and we know are right for our business. My guest today is Bri Ussery. She is a strategist and a fractional COO who works alongside you, interior design principals, to build what she calls the operational architecture behind exceptional creative work. And this is the thing. She doesn't just drop in to operations from corporate America. She actually started in interior design just like you. She understands the pace, the pressure, the emotion, the moving parts because she's been inside the studio. Now she chooses to partner with design firm owners to strengthen how projects move, how decisions are made, how communication flows, and how a business measures its own health. And we're not just talking about systems alone, because most of you listening have some sort of systems at this point. You've got software, you've got workflows, you've got onboarding decks, you've got weekly update emails, but yet you're still dealing with when things are feeling a little chaotic, still dealing with timeline wobbling, right? Still feeling like you're carrying the cognitive load of every single project. Well, Bri is going to introduce a framework around communication that might change how you think about your operations entirely. And if you've ever said, but it was in my contract, I don't know why the client didn't know that. Or if you've ever thought, I told them already how this works. If you've ever felt frustrated that a client just didn't seem to get it, well, then this episode is for you. We're going to talk about authority, clarity, documentation, expectations, and how the language you use either stabilizes your projects and sets them up for success or quietly derails them, right? So here's the thing. This isn't about being stricter. It's definitely not about being less creative. It's about everything lining up, right? So be prepared. This is going to be a good one. I'm happy to share it with you. And before we get to it, I have to tell you about June Laloy. If you're already familiar with Laloy Rugs, you know that they've been in the trade business for over 20 years with a focus on personalized service and great design. June Laloy comes from the very same family and builds on that expertise, but expands it into total home furnishings, everything from furniture and rugs to lighting and wall art, all curated with quality and value in mind. So if you're a trade member, you can get access to exclusive pricing and dedicated service, which makes the whole process super easy. You can learn more and apply to be a trade member at junelaloy.com/trade. That's JOONLOLOI.com/trade. The link will also be in the show notes. All right, let's meet Bri. Hey, Bri, thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hey, Luann. Good to see you.
Yeah, so I have to tell you, I have the furthest skill set on the planet from a COO. Literally in the dictionary, it's like my picture with an X over it. Okay. But I admire COOs so much. You are just the get it done people. It's just, I love COOs. So I'm super, super excited to have you on the show because I always learn a little extra nudgy thing from people like yourself where your brain clicks just a little differently. And what I understand is that you have a 4-part framework or 4 pillars that you use to help us right brain lunatics understand, what it takes to have a good, strong operational background. And my question is, should we start there or do we have to take a step back first? You tell me where we start, Bri.
Yeah, I think maybe we need to take a step back first. The framework that I want to talk about today is specifically in regards to language and communication and how, in my world as a COO, it's all about systems and operation. And there's a lot of information coming at designers all the time about this software, build this system. But what I want to talk about is that systems are good and necessary and important. But without layering in language to those systems that give those systems meaning and give the clients an understanding of those systems, it's incoherent. It's kind of pointless to have a good system if you don't have that language piece on top of it.
Okay, so now I'm going to jump through the screen and hug you. That's really what I'm going to do.
I'll take it.
Because you know what it is? Like what I'm hearing right off the bat, what I'm hearing is my brain is, running through all the gabillion conversations that I've had with my own chairman of the board coaching clients, right? And it's like literally the thing that I hear so often is, well, I told them how it was going to go, or it's in my contract that we're going to do this, or I don't understand because in the proposal, it blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, the fact that you're getting pushback here just tells me that you are the only one clear about this. And it's so funny because I'm right now in the middle of literally reviewing for 3 different COBs right now their planning guides, their onboarding documents, their welcome packs. And because I don't look at it like a designer, I look at it like a garden variety human. And I'm just like, sometimes I'm like super impressed. I'm always impressed because I'm not grading. There's no D papers in these things. By the time you're coming to coach with me, you've been around the block a little bit, right? And you've been doing some things right, and you're looking to make that next push, that next level up. But even for seasoned designers, 5, 8, 10 years in business, there's a lot of things that they make us, and we all do it in our own industry, right? Make assumptions that something's clear to somebody else. Like one of the examples, she'll hear herself in it, where she has 3 layers of service. And I'm like, no, I know that you have 3 layers of 3 different service deliverables because we've talked about it. But in this presentation of it, no, they're all melding together for me. I'm not, and you think that line there that says this one comes with shoppable links, that's telling me as a consumer, I'm going to do the work myself. You're out of your mind. That's not clear. You have to say, I'm doing nothing here. like you can tell it to me because I'll be like, oh, links that you can go click on and buy for me. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of designers, and you work with them, so will have that entry-level client that they do a DIY version where they get the design, but then they do the work, the client does the work themselves. So this is what we're talking about, Bri. It's like it's clear to the designer, but there's not language to make it clear to the consumer. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, definitely. And I think your point of onboarding materials, welcome decks, things like that, even in your about page on your website as a designer, the language that you use to describe your studio and the process that you're going to shepherd the client through is how you signal your expertise, your authority, and also the value that you are providing to a client. And I see this a lot, designers that we're creative. Like
We're
it
going to make it
feels
pretty.
natural to lean into the good vibes and the aesthetics and talk about the emotional connection you want your clients to have to your home. And that is all good and valid and necessary. But if you're also not talking about the rigor that's behind your practice and
Yes.
your discipline, the client doesn't know that.
Right.
I think like I see a lot use of the word collaborative process.
Oh my God.
Um,
But
and
yet I'm a
every
luxury designer and I want to do it myself and then complain to me and all my your peers that they keep butting into the process and sending me links and sending me Pinterest boards, right?
exactly like collaborative is not what you think it means in this case. You don't want to share authorship of the design with someone. You don't want to co-create. You don't want them sitting behind your shoulder while you're on CAD moving stuff around or letting them loose in your, fabric library. That's not what we're trying to do here. So
Right.
it's just like small little tweaks like that with language. If you look at it through that lens, am I clearly communicating what I'm bringing to the table? How I'm going to steward you through complexity during
Yeah.
this 2-year long process that we're about to go through.
You know what, Bri, you hit a phrase there that I think hits you between the eyes is the rigor behind it, right? That's a very good word choice for that because I know that many designers, because they love what they do so much, yes, they would tell you that it's hard work and it's all the things, but it's happy hard work, right? Like what I do is happy hard work. It's hard work, but I'm happy to do it, right?
Sure.
So it's the thing is, if you don't really sit there and pull apart what really goes into that happy hard work, if you're not talking about it, if you're not communicating it, well then how do you expect the client not to just be like, well, you just love what you do, you're having so much fun, let's just do another room and like we're just going to talk about it in the front door, right? Like, right, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think, design is especially victim to that mentality because the part that's legible to the general public and to society, the part that they see is the visual aspect of design. Like there's no behind the scenes documentaries about, you know, a detailed millwork drawing
Right.
or, what all goes into a construction documentation package. Like
Yeah.
it's not fun, it's not glamorous, it's not what designers put on their Instagram. And so I do think there's this understanding of clients, especially if they haven't gone through this process or worked with a designer before, of like, this is intuitive. This is about
Yeah.
taste and point of view
Yes.
and aesthetics, not this like really disciplined,
Yes.
meticulous, rigorous work that it requires, not only in like the detail of design, but also you're in the financial stewardship of a project, in the
Yes.
managing the broader project team and all of these collaborators. It is happy fun work, but it is
It's hard
not
work.
beautiful fun work all the
Right.
time.
Right. You know, it's funny. I was recently at Las Vegas Market and I did a presentation there, and there was something came up about scope creep and stuff like that, right? And it was so funny because, I said, look, I'm going to use a silly example. Like we're standing here, we're supposed to be working on the kitchen or whatever it is, and you are hard at work in the kitchen with the consultation with the client and trying to nail down details, blah, blah, blah. And now the client is like, that chandelier over there in the dining room, like, should we take it down? Should we put it up? Should we do this? Should we do like, I saw this, let me show it to you on my phone, blah, blah, blah. And I said, and the thing about it is, your brain is like, hey, we're not working on the dining room. That's not part of the agreement. That's not part of the scope, right?
Right.
And you want to get offended that they asked about, well, I just wanted to know if I should use that chandelier or a different one. But I said, think about why you don't want to answer the question. And I think this gets to the heart of what you were just saying about all of the work that goes into it behind the scenes. I said, think about why you don't want to answer the question. I said, yeah, there's one part of you that doesn't want to answer because you're not getting paid for it. I said, but really, isn't the real reason why you don't want to answer the question is because when you look over at that dining room and they're like, should I use this chandelier or that chandelier? Your brain starts clicking. Well, is that still the dining room table? Is that going to be the area rug? Are we changing those window treatments? And what about the color in the room? Is that going to happen? And are we leaving the paneling on that wall? And is the brick staying on the fireplace? Because you know to give a good answer to this chandelier or this chandelier, it actually takes a tremendous amount of expertise to assimilate all of the information to give an answer. And I said, so how about instead of saying, well, how about you say, you know what? That would require a complete, discovery process about the entire dining room and what's staying and not going. And if you want, I'm happy to give you a change order and add, the scope of work for the dining room. But otherwise, it would be really unprofessional for me to just pick a chandelier. Like, what I'm saying? It's like, and they all just looked at me and I'm like, right. That's like, because I've done this as window treatments. Oh, should I keep those window treatments? Should I get new ones? I don't know, sweetie. What else is staying and going? Like, this is a big thing, right? Yeah. And that's the rigor behind it that you're talking about, right, Bri?
Yeah, the studying of it, but also, like you said, the thinking through, not just is that paneling staying, is this the dining room table, but also like at what height does that chandelier, like who's going to tell the person that's hanging that chandelier how high to hang it? And so, it's not as simplistic as it appears to be sometimes.
Well, and the thing is, so to your point with language here, right? Designers know all of the rigor that goes behind it. But what you're identifying is there is a lack of communicating it in an easy breezy sort of, I'm just informing you kind of way through your website, through your marketing, through your onboarding conversations and your discovery calls. Like, it's up to the designer to know it, but then to communicate it is the point, right?
Yes. Not to bang it
no,
over
it's
the head
organic
of the client,
all the way through, right?
The language that you use either communicates value, authority, and expertise, or it's introducing like a little ambiguity or uncertainty about those very important postures you want to maintain throughout a project.
Yeah. So then walk us through it. So the 4 pillars. So I'm assuming these 4 pillars are going to give us some clarity on how we start to think about how we do communicate. Is that correct?
Yes. So we just talked about the first one, that language signals expertise, value, and authority.
Okay.
And then the second one is communication sets the pace. So when I think about this pillar or look at it in the context of a project and language and how we're communicating with clients, I think about, clients don't know how long things take, what dots are connected to other dots, what affects the critical path or things downstream. And so it's our job as designers to explicitly communicate and tying it back to that relationship between systems and language. The system most studios have is that they send weekly update emails, right? Mm-hmm. Every week, client gets an email and it's like, hey, this is what we worked on this week. Here's looking ahead for next week. Here's all the open outstanding items, etc. That's a system. But unless you're creating meaning within that system by what you're communicating through that weekly update, it's kind of a nothing burger, right?
It's so like noise, right?
Yeah.
It's like white noise.
Yes. So if you're saying, hey, this week we did a design presentation, we, worked on this, worked on that, take a look at the deck when you have a chance and let us know your feedback, is very different from, we did a design presentation this week, here's the deck. We need your written feedback compiled in a single email by this date
Exactly.
in order to maintain the project timeline. Or if it's like a proposal, in order to prevent having to requote, reselect,
Yep.
et cetera. So like you have to, if you don't name the expectation, name the implications, they're like, cool, I will look at
Great. I
this when
have
I have a
all the time
chance.
in the
And
world to do this.
yeah,
Yes.
and I'm going to send you a text and an email and then a contradicting DM on Instagram when I saw this tile that I really liked. Yeah, you have to. I hear a lot of talk, and boundaries are important. There's a lot of talk about boundaries, but I like to think of boundaries as like a container. You have to
Yes.
give them the container
Yes.
to put things in.
Yeah.
Instead of like drawing a line in the sand. It's like,
Yes.
here's the container.
Yeah, yeah. Here's what will work. These things are all good. I love that you're nailing that down because I've also had recent conversations where, whoever, whichever coaching client is saying like, I would love to follow up and blah, blah, blah. And like, this is for all conversations ever. This is a typical thing. I do it with the WindowWorks team, the salespeople at the WindowWorks team. And they'll be like, oh, this person hasn't called me back. And did the presentation 2 weeks ago and I've sent, 2 emails and I've done this and I blah, blah, blah. And then finally I'm like, well, what does the email say? Oh, hey, just following up, wondering if you have any questions. And I'm like, you see, that's not designed to get a result. Like, that's not designed to get a result. It's like, I don't care if you make it up. Hey, I'm checking in because the quote I gave you 2 weeks ago, I've got 40 yards of fabric on reserve and the reserve is running out. I need to know by end of day if we're doing this or not. We can not do it. We can make an alternate plan. We can go other places, but this fabric is leaving. Right? Like this fabric is leaving the train. You're not going to get it. Right? It's like you got to, like to your point, what do we want them to do? We don't need to be just like, whatever you think, whatever you need. If you have any questions, it's like,
yeah, you are leading this ship. You are steering this ship. The client is allowed to change course
right.
and point you in the direction, but to the point of our, earlier point about collaboration, you're the one leading this
Right.
project. It is
Right.
not a truly collaborative process where the client gets to dictate. You can't run a timeline or a schedule or a project with flexibility in that sense,
No.
with open-ended systems and processes.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is that we know that we have to deliver more higher level of deliverables to the luxury client. We know that. They pay more money, they get more things, all the things. But that doesn't mean it doesn't come without that box of boundaries, right? It's like if I understand that this decision hinges on that decision, hinges on that decision, and there's a timeline, and I don't do my thing in that timeline, but you tell me ahead of time that I'm the one. Like Vin and I are just going through a renovation. And, the job is on Job Trend or something, which is like My Doma Studio, but for builders, right? And so in Job Trend, they'll do things and they'll be like pinging us, hey, approval on this, approval on that. And there have been a couple of times over the 6 months where, because I don't read my emails, let's be serious. I don't read my emails. And this is personal, so I don't have Mariali doing it for me, right?
Yeah.
And so, Gina, the project manager, will sometimes come in and text me and on a Thursday and she'll be like, you've had an approval in Job Trend since Monday. We're losing daylight, Lou. Like you're gonna screw the calendar up. And then I'm like, oh my God, but she's not like, hey, just wondering how you're doing and what you thought about the tile. Right? She's like, she comes in and she's like, yeah, the tiler's planning to come. Like, you're doing it or not doing it. Like, where are we at? Like, and I'm not like offended. I'm just like, these are the rules of the game. And I'm trusting them to lead me through that process. And they might have to kick me a little bit along the way, right? But they're not like, not trying to hurt my feelings during it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think, being clear and setting expectations, naming implications, that's not like the opposite of warm. You don't have to do it. it's not rigid or cold. You can still be warm and kind and friendly and use your personality and your tone. When I talk about language, I'm not talking about tone and your personality. It's just in the choice of words and how clearly what you were trying to communicate gets communicated.
Yes. I mean, you know what it is too? I think that you tell me when you work with the designers that you work with in your business, I feel like a lot of times I'm just simply saying, what is it that you want to have happen here? Like to the designer, what is it? Like you want to send an email. What result do you want from this email? Well, I need to know if they're going to sign the agreement and they're going to go ahead because I'm supposed to do the consultation next week or whatever. And I'm like, okay. And if they don't do it, what happens? Well, they said they wanted next Tuesday, but now, I mean, if I don't know. So I'm like, okay. So then the email is, you've had the proposal for 3 days. If you have a question, let me know. Otherwise, am I planning to see you Tuesday or not? Like, don't leave that part out, right? Like, put that part in. It's okay to put that part in. To your point, doesn't mean all of a sudden you're rude, but if we know what we want from the email, it's up to us to say what we want from the response, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think, I could go off on a huge tangent about most all of my clients are women, and I would say most designers are women. And there is the women of it all
Yeah.
about it, where we're, socialized and taught to soften ourselves, to hedge our communication, and to lead with kindness and warmth. And I think leading with kindness and warmth for me are the same as being clear. I think clarity
Yes.
is kindness. I think if you're not clear, you're introducing uncertainty in the process. And like that feels unsafe as a client when there's that ambiguity and uncertainty of like, I don't know what's happening here.
Right. Well, and I'm with you 110%. And the yes and to that is, and yes, and the designer actually usually does know what the consequences are and what the implications are. But by not stating them in the nicest way possible with sugar and honey and spice all over the damn thing, you're right. You're doing a disservice. Like if Gina just came into me and said, hey, the proposal's in there for the tile. Okay, whatever. I'm off to Vegas. See you when I get back. Instead, she's like, the proposal's in there for the tile. If I don't get a yes or a no, we're not going to order it in time to be installed on the date that's in the job trend. Well, that's a very different thing. And you know what I do then? I stop what I'm doing and I open the darn job trend and I look at it and I go, approved, done. Or one time I opened it up, I'm like, this is nonsense, G. I'm like, I'm not approving this. Where did this number come from? Right. And
Yeah.
so, but I would not, if she were just without giving me that clarity, that full communication of why I have to do it and what will happen if I don't. Yeah, I'll be like every other garden variety human. Go do what I'm doing, thinking you got all the time in the world, right?
Right. And like how would you as the client here, would you have preferred her to say, hey, if you don't approve this tile by Friday, you know, that's going to add another 6 weeks to the project because of the lead time, or it's about to go out of stock or whatever. Would you prefer to have that information now when
Yes,
things are
ma'am.
like neutral? Or when you were promised to be in your house by Christmas and it's 2 weeks before Christmas, there's no tile there and you're emotionally charged, everybody's emotionally charged. And then they're like, well,
You never
it took
gave
you
us the
2 weeks
approval.
to,
Yes. Right.
approve that. Like, that's not the time. You're just like, it might be a little uncomfortable until you get used to communicating in this way at first. But if you do that up front, if you front load it in the
Yep.
kindest, nicest way possible, you're not having to introduce that friction later when it is going to be received very differently.
Right, because now it feels like you're like, as the consumer, if you hit me with when I'm like, we're late, why am I not in the house, or why isn't the room done? And then you pull out, well, on October 10th, you took 10 days to answer me, and my contract says that you have to answer in 3 days. Like, I'm like, stop right now with this nonsense. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go into
personal.
offense. Yeah, I'm going to go into offense mode. I'm going to be like, you know what? You had 6 weeks to tell me I was the problem. And now all of a sudden I'm giving you a problem about not being in, and now you're going to tell me I'm the problem? Stop.
I love it.
But and I only would know that to be true, that I was the problem in that case, because of all of these interviews. I promise you, without all of these interviews, if that kind of thing went down, I would have been like, I wouldn't say the words in my head, you're making this up, but I'd be like, this is bullcrap. Now you're pulling everything out of your hat, like that I did wrong so that they were not done. I'd be like, what didn't you do right? But I can tell you, I have jumped every time that I'm aware that something in job trend, whether Vinny, of course, checking it every 25 seconds, there's something in job trend, you got to approve it, like this, right? Because I know from all these conversations that this is the schedule. This is the thing. This is, if she's giving me the tile quote now, then she needs to order it now in order for when the tile's scheduled for 5 weeks from now. This is when it happens. But I would never, as organized as this builder is, and this builder is amazing. JS Pro in New Jersey. I'm going to say it right now. The guy and his team are amazing, okay? But I would not have the slightest idea how amazing he is if I hadn't done all these interviews. I'd have been like, well, of course, stuff's getting done. Like, that's what's supposed to happen. But I can't, buy a milkshake without critiquing the customer service. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, this is ridiculous. The line could be that way. We could all get out of here faster. What is this going on? So I would be naturally critiquing the process because it's who I am. But having the background depth of what is actually happening on that side of it, from having the front row seat to designers and everything that's happening, it's like, whoa. And so I am, as much as I can, I'm respecting when they've got deadlines because of the shared knowledge, both what I've been told by them, and there's no, dancing around it, and by what I know from the designers and how to keep a project on schedule. But that's not the garden variety human. They haven't interviewed 1,400 designers. They don't know this. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, so that's number 2 bucket is communication sets the pace, right? So this is keeping the project on pace, on track, by making sure that the communication is going both ways. And then the third one is, this one I love.
The third one is documentation holds the truth.
Oh
and so this is, I know, this is my favorite one too, as like a nerdy,
oh my God. I just can't with this
I
one.
love meeting notes. What can I say? Yeah. But documentation holds the truth to me means that any written communication, any meetings that are had that then get clearly documented meeting notes afterwards, that is your source of truth for the entire project, and is something that you can come back to and rely upon so that you're not relitigating things.
Yes.
You're not going back through, this is an argument I use for the boundary of like not allowing clients to text you or call you, is because you don't get to have that documentation, that historical record of that conversation in a way or in a place that is meaningful.
Yeah.
But with meeting notes, I see a lot of times like it being treated as a summary of the conversation instead of very clear decision matrices with dates attached to the point of that, expectations and implications. There's a difference between, we discussed kitchen layout options
versus we decided.
Option B is, appliance locations are fixed. Any additional revisions after this will require a reissuance of the construction documents, you know.
Exactly. Oh my God. Bri, I just had this conversation 2 days ago with 3 days ago with one of my chairman of the boards. She had a situation on a project, highly documented project. She did all her P's and Q's and all the things. They did a walkthrough of it, P's and Q's with the guy that's supposed to do the thing and blah, blah, blah. Couple weeks later, comes onto the project. Something is wrong. It's not the way it's supposed to be. And she gets a text from the client. Then she gets the picture and she's just like, oh, that's not what we decided, you know? And the thing about it is, what happened in that particular situation, it ended up getting resolved. Okay. So she's very fortunate. She's very smart, very level headed. And the builder she's working with is also very like, we're in this together. And the client is also, hey, you know what? We're not curing cancer here. We can figure this out. So they got lucky, but it's the builder that got lucky because she had the walkthrough and she had the documentation, and it didn't change from the walkthrough didn't change the documentation. And so what we talked about was, she said, I am recording it. They know I'm recording it. And she said, and I didn't want to do that. I'll pull the recording out, guys, because it felt because she has a very good relationship with the builder, and it just felt aggressive.
Yeah.
Only because the client created a solution that everybody was happy with, okay? So she's not holding the bag and blah, blah, blah. But I said to her, maybe it's a simple thing where it's everybody knows you're recording. Everybody knows this, but like before, you just tell them before you record. At the end, we're going to take the final piece of each recording for each room is going to end with, so we're all in agreement. Everything on the documentation is the living truth of this job. Even though we've talked about this for 25 minutes and we've gone down different rabbit holes, we are coming back to the original documented plan. Or the end of it is, after talking about this for 25 minutes, we're all in agreement that I am revising the documentation and the existing documentation is going to be replaced. And then everybody says, agreed, agreed, agreed. And now there's no nonsense, right? Like, it's like, because that's what felt bad for her to look at the guy. And I said to her, I've done this with designers for 40 years. It's like, I've walked jobs, 10,000 square foot homes, 2,000 square foot homes, one window, 40 windows, and I'm the only one with a pen and paper. And this is before voice recording, and this is before iPhones, and this is before all this crap, right? And I'm the only one. And I've had designers over the years, when I learned after they showed me more than 1 and 2 and 3 times that they are going to debate what was decided, when I'm the only one with a pen and paper and they're placing the order 6 months later, now those designers, here, we just had our meeting, you're going to sign off on this. This is what we agreed to. And it was like, it changed things because now they had to pay attention and say, oh, wait, I did say to put the drapes under the crown molding. Yes, I'm agreeing to that. Because if I had a nickel for every time I measured a job in September and I'm supposed to put the drape under the crown molding and I get there in May with the damn drape and they're like, I would never put it there. Okay, you would never. Just the 4 houses before that, but not this one. Stop, right? So I know on this one I told you I didn't want that. Oh, okay, right. But here it says it. So there has to be, it's okay to change things, but there has to be out loud agreement on it's changed or not changed, right, Bri?
Yeah, I mean, clearly documented decisions and approvals, and this doesn't have to be, crazy.
An inquisition, right?
You don't have to, sign on the dotted line, but like sharing meeting notes with like a little caveat at the bottom that says, please read this. This is our understanding of what was decided or not decided in this meeting. This is the project record. Same with, emails are the project record too. It doesn't have to be like a formalized document. It's any communication that happens. And, I hope that no designer is ever sued or finds themselves in a legal battle. But it is good practice and to protect yourself in the studio to look through the lens of like, if 5 different people read this email, these meeting notes, would they walk away with 5 different understandings of this, or is it so coherent and clear that they would all walk away with the same understanding? That's
Period.
it. That's the like mind shift change that needs to happen in order for that pillar to stand up.
Yeah. You know, and it's funny. I love that clarity of read the email again. Does it make sense? I got an email last week. You know, like I said, I don't read my own emails. But Mariali comes to me and she's like, I'm not sure what to do with this. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? And so she starts to read it. And I'm like, no, stop. It's okay. I'll go look at it. I literally read this email, Bri. I am a word person. I have written 3 books. I do the Sunday crossword time. I can read, okay?
Yes.
And I literally was like, what? And I put it into ChatGPT and I said, am I crazy or is there no point to this? And I'm like, what am I being asked something? Am I being told something? Am I being instructed? Like, what is this? And the thing was like, no, you're right. This is literally just like a brain dump captured in elegant language that's supposed to mean something, but it doesn't. And I was like, okay, great, thanks. And I'm like it was nonsense. It was 3 paragraphs of nonsense. And I'm like, yeah, it was bonkers. It was bonkers. So we can think that we're being clear, but to your point, if can be construed a different way by a different human, then that's not clarity.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. Save your fluffy, forally language for the beginning of the email. Like, hope you had a nice weekend, you know.
Yeah.
Flowers. Yeah. But then when you're getting to the meat of it, you do not need to add flourish in there.
And you want it to be clear. And the other thing, too, is I know you're probably, as far as communication is concerned, going to agree with me. When I need a critical answer, we're not asking 3 questions. We're sending an email with 1 question. Because if there is a critical thing that we need to know, especially if it's a point of contention, if I ask you 3 questions and you don't want to answer the one, you'll answer the other 2 and just leave that one off. And so when I'm working with my designers, I'm like, no. This is a 1 question email. When are you paying me? Not when are you paying me? And should I stop by on Tuesday? And what color is your dog? Nope. This is when is the check coming email. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. All right. And then the 4th bucket and pillar here
is systems and how those systems are communicated shape client behavior and how they operate inside of a project. It teaches them what their responsibilities and ownership are within a project. Yeah. So that one I think is it's like a distillment of all the other ones.
Yes.
If you are clearly communicating what you need from them by when, and you're holding firm on the expectations that you've set out, any rules or boundaries, the client will behave accordingly.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, because the client wants the project to be good too. You know what I'm saying? They want it to be good too. They want it to be effortless. They want it to be, collaborative in the sense of we get along, not that I'm doing your work for you, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just like anything else. If you tell them what the rules are, well, they'll play by them, right?
Yes. And I think, in this work, the client relationship is fragile because you're doing very personal work. You're working on somebody's home. You're in their families. You know them. If you're going to produce a good design that reflects your clients, you're getting to know them deeply and personally. And so at the same time, you're also handling a significant investment of theirs. And that requires a lot of trust on both like they need to trust you as the visionary they hired to execute the beautiful end product, but then they also need to trust you as the person that's going to carry them through the whole way, because from consultation to reveal, it could be 3 years. That is a long relationship that requires a delicate hand in order to maintain. And the minute that trust erodes, which most of the time I think the reason it begins is because of this feeling of instability that a client has, or like uncertainty about authority. It's really hard to come back once trust has started to slip.
Yeah, especially because, like you said, the client has so much money on the line, and they go into it trusting and hoping the trust is well placed. And then when little things prick away at that, now it's like, oh, and my money is on the line. Like now it gets that extra layer, right? It's like when I think about like our project will be start to finish 6 months, right? We're not doing this huge thing.
Yeah.
And I think about if it were that 2-3 year, if we were doing a build from the ground up or something, and I put myself in the situation where, what if I didn't recognize? What if I didn't recognize that when I am pinged in Job Trend to approve or question something, that task in there is connected to a timeline that the builder has got in his calendar, right? Like that's what I clearly understand, but only from all these podcast interviews. That they're, I might be like in February, if it's just a 2-year job and you're like asking me, hey, I didn't get your approval on the tile, I might be in my world thinking, what? My God, we don't even have sticks up yet. Like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't even see sheetrock yet. I'm going to Vegas. I'm going to Cabus. I'll see ya when I get back, right?
Right.
But having understood that it's attached. And so when I think about if I didn't have the experience and I wasn't explained by them at the beginning, I could see how a designer or a builder could put up with a client not being responsive, not sending the email right back, not in the time frame because they haven't been told to. Like your email was, hey, here's a design proposal. Thanks so much. Let me know if you have questions, versus your right one, which is, and I need a response by email in writing with this by this day. It's like, what I'm saying is, if I don't understand it at the beginning as a client and you're worried, you're on your end thinking you're being clear, but you're not putting the entire loop around what I'm supposed to do, it's going to be 6 or 8 months before we're at heads, right? Because the designer is going to have grace for it. I'm going to be like, I don't know, I'm out here causing all these problems. And then finally what's going to happen is something's going to get delayed. I'm the client. I'm going to get pissy about it. And now you're going to be thinking, oh my God, you have been torturing me for 6 months with every decision. Right?
Yeah.
And then that's the beginning. Yeah, that's the beginning of the end.
Posture.
Right. Exactly.
Not where you want to be. You want to be proactive. So
yes.
Like if you were delayed in approving that tile, okay, not the end of the world. We don't need to burn it down. But I remind
We've got some adjustments
when you do it, then I say, hey, here's the updated Gantt chart of the project schedule. As you can see, we've made adjustments to add 2 weeks to this phase that we're in now, because there was a little delay in you approving the tile, which then is affecting everybody downstream.
Along the line. Yep, the whole thing.
The construction documents are going to be 2 weeks past when we initially set the deadline, and then permitting is going to push, and then et cetera, et cetera.
But to your point, to just really emphasize it, the time to tell me those consequences are in the beginning when I haven't done those stupid things yet. Like, right? You have to tell me this is how it's going to work. We're on a schedule. I'm going to send you a thing. You're going to approve it. If you sit on it, you sit on it. And I'm just going to tell you the results of you sitting on it. They didn't create them. I didn't make them. You made them. Of course, that's inside voice. We say it nicer. right?
Of course. But yes, at the beginning, but then also all the way through.
Continuous, right?
Because it is a long process.
Yes.
Things compound, memories get fuzzy. And so it has to be a thread that is like consistent throughout the project in order for it to be coherent and have that meaning that the clients need in order to operate accordingly.
And to your point, like the consistency has to be there, but the consistency also has to be there in the designer showing up with their stuff too. You can't tell me, every time I got to answer you in 3 days and then like you go to Bermuda and I don't hear from you for a month. Like I was busy and this happened and I stubbed my toe. No, we're both going to show up here as adults and we're both going to do the same thing. And that comes to, and as a COO, I'm sure you get involved in, that comes to capacity planning, right? Like, don't take 2 projects that your firm can't handle at the exact same time that are going to be in the exact same stages. You have to be the steward of that. And it's like, yay, I'm so excited. I got 2 $2 million projects or 2 $5 million projects. But one's got to start in January and the other one might have to start in April. Otherwise, our team can't handle it. And then you're going to drop balls, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That's up to the designer. They have to know their own capacity and they have to know what they can push through. And you know what? We had the sponsored show with Design Assist. It's not like the old days. If you all of a sudden got the opportunity to do another project that was above your capacity, you had to like defer it. You had to say, hey, or you had to do a crappy job at every process point for both projects. But now with Design Assist, you can onboard a degreed interior designer or architect in 2 weeks, and they can help you keep it moving along. Like there's ways now in 2026 to get qualified help. The whole outsourcing thing is completely different than 20 years ago. If 20 years ago you were above capacity and you wanted to say yes to a job that you didn't have the room to do, you'd be like, oh my God, I got to find a human. I got to train him. I got to figure, blah, 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 blah. Now it's not like that, right?
Right. And I think, I need to say as a systems and operations person, I need to add this in, but these, I know we've been talking about language the whole time, but it's in conjunction with the systems, right? So the thing I want to add is when we talk about systems, these are built once. You decide escalation paths. You have form emails written out. And even if you're a newer designer and don't have a large team, you're a small, nimble team, I do think it's important also to have somebody else, whether that be a lower level admin person, and this can be like super part-time, they can be remote, but I also find it really, really, really helpful when it's not the principal, the founder, being the enforcer of all of these systems. They're the visionary, creative, they're leading. Of course, internally, they're leading the whole thing. Their name is on the door. They're the CEO. But client facing, I do think it's important to, it's really hard to stay
My project
grounded.
manager needs this done. Right? Like there's accountability and it doesn't need to be coming from them is what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that helps with that.
It does. It's
instinct to like soften,
be nice,
and be generous. And you can be generous and flexible intentionally without it being
running you over
because you're being pushed too.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's so funny. I keep bringing up the chairman of the boards because the conversation just is so on point with all of the weeds of these different clients, designer clients. But I just said to one is a small team. And I just said last week, we can have an email that's like, project manager at XYZ design firm. Like, you can send the email, but it doesn't have to be from you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we can come up with another email and it doesn't have to, like, you don't have, like, the client doesn't have to know that you're the one seeing and doing everything. It can be, like, listen, Mariali does all my stuff. It's like, I don't do it all. I might Voxer her or tell her verbally what it is, but it comes from her. You know what I'm saying? It's like very few emails are personally with me back and forth, because I don't have time for it. I don't want to deal with it, but things have to keep moving. And so, whether it's somebody in your firm, and I know that function is great. When you get to the point, I had another chairman of the board last year where so many skill sets, but isn't good at being the hammer, you know? And a lot of times throughout our conversations and the coaching year, she would say, "Oh my God, my husband said the exact same thing as you." Or like, "Holy crow, like, my husband said the same thing." And I'm like, all of a sudden she goes, "I wish I could just have my," and I'm like, "Well, he could. I don't know what his work life is like, but like you can have somebody come in and be that gatekeeper and be the one that says, that's not how we do things here, right? It doesn't have to be, to your point, you don't have to be the systems enforcer client facing. You can be the feel good person. Hey, I'm here for all the love and the fun, right? You're working your butt off in the background for sure, but you don't have to be the bad guy, is the point. Those weekly emails can come from, projectmanager, .com. You know what I'm saying?
For
Right?
sure. Yeah. I mean, especially like the mundane, benign stuff
Yeah.
too. Like
Yeah.
that's really below your pay grade as the
Yeah.
CEO anyways.
Yeah.
Your leadership is better exercised elsewhere
Yeah.
in your
We did
studio.
a thing at WindowWorks. At WindowWorks, you have to CC the office. You can BCC the office on all the communications. Because and we don't keep it forever, but like I remember when I would hire an office administrator back in the day or a new salesperson, I'm like, I'm BCC'd on everything. Like you're flying solo, but I got to watch what you're doing. I got to watch. Are you doing the right communication? Are you like tying the things down? And if I see a red flag, I need to walk over to your desk, not insert myself in the email and be that, but I need to walk over to your desk and say, "Hey, I'm just saying, you're heading for a crash here. I'm just telling you the way this whole conversation's going, it's not going to end good. And
Yeah.
here's the problem. Here's what I'm seeing, blah, blah, blah." And then there's a point where, fly, little birdie, we know you got it. But this is something that you have to learn, is this communication, right? Is the way to do it with kindness and respect and deference for the amount of tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars that people are spending with you. But you said it. Clarity is kindness. Like, you're not doing anybody favors by not saying what the rules are and playing by the rules, because that's how they know, again, you said it, I'm repeating you, that their money is safe. And that's the bottom line. Their money is safe, right?
Yep.
Because, we can forgive if the pillow's going to be laid or the tile, has to be redone. But you mess around with somebody's money and that gets very emotional,
Yeah.
right?
And not just is my money safe, but like, is my money well spent?
Yes,
Too,
that's what I mean by safe. It's
is
like,
this
you're
worth
not
it?
blowing it,
Yeah.
like, you know what you're doing here, right?
Yeah.
So, and you said it, Bri, and I was thinking that the place that I was going to round this out, and you kind of said it a few moments ago, is that you're a COO, a fractional COO. You either create systems for design firms or work with design firms to establish systems. And this is all after the systems are built, that everybody in the firm has the clarity. You can't send an email that tells a client what to do if you haven't first documented how the heck you do the thing, right? So it's the layer upon the systems, this communication.
Yeah, where it's like baked in, really.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
it's, if you're writing an SOP, if you built the system for meeting notes and you're writing an SOP and there's like that SOP needs to include a language guide to meeting notes that says these are the types of phrasing that provide clarity. Avoid these types of phrasing. It's baked in, and in every single layer. And again, even in things that aren't, considered super operational, like your about page or your welcome deck, it permeates through everything.
Right. It does. And it makes a difference. Your firm up levels. It's just, I know that there are, a fraction of 1% of the people that are they're just miserable and they're out for bear and, whatever. But the 99.9% of people want to do like you do. They want it to go good. They want the communication to be clear. They want the understandings to be, not vague. They want the timelines to be understood. And it is the job of the designer to establish that, and when I've always noticed is, when the consumer starts driving it, then I start asking my designer, well, when did you tell them what was the next step? When did you tell them how this would happen? Oh, well, bada. I'm like, well, okay. Now you have a driver personality that's like, where's the train going? There's no conductor. All right, I'll be the conductor. You know what I'm saying? Like, like you're going to have the driver personality that's going to drive the train. And then you're going to have the more laid back personality that's just going to sit there in the background and then finally erupt when they don't feel like things are happening. But it's all lack of leadership at the beginning of the project and throughout the project, right, Bri?
Yep. Yeah. Authority. Like, where does it lie?
Yeah. I use the example 1,000 times on the podcast about like a simple thing when you go into a one-day surgery center for a procedure, right? Like, think about the number of times that somebody explains to you exactly what's going to happen in the 6 hours that you're in that place. They tell you in the doctor's office, you're going to go, and we're going to call you the day before, and we're going to say, come at 6 o'clock, or we're going to tell you, come at 11 o'clock, and you're not going to eat this, and you're going to not do that, and don't bring your wallet, and don't bring your jewelry, and blah, blah, blah. And they give it all to you. And then you get there, and they tell you the whole thing, and they tell it all over to you again. And then this is the thing that's going to happen. And like the whole time, you're just like, okay, this is fine. I'm not sitting here at 6 a.m. going, what's next? Oh my God, can my husband come back with me? Like, when does the doctor come? Like that's crazy, right?
They do that to make you feel safe.
Exactly. And to not ask for stupid things too soon, right? Like, don't ask me at 6 a.m. Can my husband see me when I'm done? I'm going to tell you, he can come in and see you as soon as you open your darn eyeballs. Well, I'm in. Like that's the thing. It creates safety, but it also helps the consumer, whether it's a patient or a consumer for a client, a designer, to go, okay, there's a plan. Just keep hearing the plan. It's good. They got this. But if you get there at 6 a.m. and everybody's like, oh, were you supposed to be here at 6? Oh, who's taking care of her? Oh, what's happening? Oh, wait, are you here to have your leg amputated? No, I'm here to get a tooth pulled. What the heck kind of cockamamie show is this? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you're just like, whoa, what is happening, right?
Yeah. So, and I think to like piggyback on that too, I will say, in terms of language, it's specifically about processes and what to expect and what's coming next and what we need from you. The industry has its own language, things that we throw around, like FF&E. Does your client know what that means?
No, man.
Or like we'll like paraphrase things or make things shorter. Like we'll use DD and expect a client to know what that means, or SD. Yeah. And I was a designer myself for years, owned my own firm before I started doing this work. And I'm in a bunch of studios. And there are a lot of times where I read materials from a new client that I'm working with that I don't know what they're talking about.
Oh, and you were a designer,
and
right?
If I don't know what you're talking about, because every, not that I don't know what like that word means maybe, but like, what do you mean by this?
Yeah.
And every firm has their own process and way they work through their project. And so if I have questions after reading this, then we need to take a look at that, because our client will surely have questions.
I remember, I don't know if it was 2-3 years into the podcast, I don't know why, but a couple of times within, say, a period of, I don't know, a month or 2 months, coincidentally, more than one designer used the term FF&E. And when the first one, I let it go. And I was like, "Meow, meow, meow, meow." And then when the second one said, I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. What
You're
does
like,
FF and
Google.
E mean anyway?
Yeah.
I just said it on air. Like, whatever. I don't know what it means. And then also one of my chairman of the boards, I'm going to get the initials wrong. She's doing a project where it's like an extra the extra building on the property. So it's like a
ADU.
That's it. That's it. And she's like Voxer me. And the ADU guy, this, and finally the third Voxer, I'm like pulling up Google. I'm like, what the heck is an ADU?
Yeah, I think we live in this world. Like we just assume like you're with it. You know what's happening. You know what's going on. But
Exactly.
sometimes they don't.
No, I know. And the thing is, it's always when you know it, when they tell it to you, it makes perfect sense. But yeah, I was just like, after the third, I'm like, okay, what the heck? Do I need to know what an ADU is? Like to help her through this problem? I don't know, but maybe I should.
Well, that's funny.
So funny. Anyway, so just give us, a few minutes on how you help and work with designers, Bri.
Sure. I'm a fractional COO. I do all things operations, but I am also a strategist and a thought partner for designers. I think, I love my spreadsheets and my systems and all of that, but I think what I love most in working with the clients that I work with is getting to be that true thought partner with them. It's nice. I find that it's nice to have another adult in the room, another brain in the room. It's
a lonely business with a lot of responsibility, right?
It is. And you can't bring everything to your team.
No.
And it's hard. It's really, really hard. Owning a business in general is hard. And so, yeah, that's what I do.
I love it. I love it. And remind me, do they go to briussery.com? Is that where we go?
Yes.
Yes. So it's BRIUSSERY.com. And of course, we'll put the link in the show notes. But
yeah. And if you want, I'll send you a link too I made a little deck about
perfect.
the communication pillars. So you can share that with your audience too if they find it helpful.
Okay. We will put that in the show notes and you can go and download it and get that to download. Okay, I'm making a note for the team. Yay. I love little free downloads, checklists and things like that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, Bri, you are amazing. I appreciate this conversation so much. This wasn't technically a sales conversation, but it kind of was. For me, wordsmithing and figuring out the right way to say the right thing, that negotiation I could do all day long. So I love this conversation. Thanks, Bri.
I loved it too. Thank you, Luann.
Okay, that conversation was right up my alley. If you were listening carefully, yes, it was about communication 100%, and it was also about how you run your business. I want to walk you back through this because Bri did something important. She did not tell you to go buy another software. She did not tell you to build a more complicated workflow. She did not tell you need a fancier onboarding deck. She told you the system is likely not the problem. It's the language around the system that is likely the problem, and that's a very different thing. Let's go back to that first pillar. Language signals expertise, value, and authority. I wanted you to think about all of your own assets right now, your website, your onboarding deck. Now think about how do you describe your process when you start those beginning initial conversations with potential clients. Are you leading or are you following? There is a difference between being warm and being vague. And often we've been socialized to hedge, to soften, to make sure everyone's comfortable by the time we finish every blasted sentence. Well, here's the truth. When you hedge your language, you hedge your authority, and clients feel it. They may not say it, but they feel it. And when your authority is in question, that's when they step in and they start steering and they start inserting themselves because internally they're thinking, is this going to go right? And if I'm not sure of it, I've got to start to take some control here. It isn't because they're bad people, but they've invested a lot of money, right? And instead, it's because you're not clearly signaling that you are the one in charge from the beginning. Pillar 2, communication sets the pace. This one's huge. You might have a system, for example, where you send weekly updates. Awesome. But if your weekly update says, here's the XYZ, blah, 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 let me know your thoughts. You see, this is not the same as, here's your XYZ, and we need your written feedback by Friday in order to maintain the timeline that we've all agreed to. These are two completely different ways of running a project. One is passive, one is directional. If you do not name the expectation and the implication or the risk that will happen, clients will default to their own pace. And their pace is not your pace. Their pace is based on their vacation schedule, their kids' soccer practice, their work schedule, their mood that day. Okay? But your pace is based on an actual schedule that you set with your team and your trades. So if you don't clearly communicate how their responsiveness, for example, affects the timeline, you are setting yourself up later for a little tit for tat. Right? And you don't want to be defensive later. You don't want to be saying, well, I sent you that email 2 months ago, blah, blah, blah. No, you want to be proactive from the beginning. This brings us to pillar 3. Documentation protects the decision. How many times have you revisited decision? How many times have you thought, wait a second, didn't we do this already? Like a deja vu type of a moment, right? You might have, but if it wasn't documented clearly in writing in a way that you know where to find it when you need it and everybody understands it, did it really happen? I don't know. Thing is, meeting notes are not busy work. Follow-up emails are not administrative fluff. They are the historical record of the project. I love that Bri stressed this. And, the thing is, if 5 people read your email and 5 people walk away with different ideas, interpretations of what it said, then you're not specific enough. So before you hit send, ask yourself, can this be misunderstood? Is this decision stated plainly? Did I say what happens next? And did I say what happens if you don't do the next thing, right? Because when you skip this step, maybe you think you're saving time, but you're actually setting yourself up for a little trouble down the line. Now, let's talk about the client experience in this. One of my favorite conversations of all time on this particular topic was with Nate Berkus. What I loved about the conversation with Nate was how deeply he understands that luxury is not just about the aesthetics. It's about trust. It's about safety. It's about being guided by a designer who knows exactly where the project is going. You cannot create a high-end client experience if your communication is loose. You cannot create trust if expectations are implied instead of stated. And you cannot create safety for your clients so that they can just do what they do and leave you to do what you do if your authority feels uncertain. So at the end of the day, systems matter, design matters, but guess what? It's the experience that your client has. That's what will be remembered. All right. And then finally, systems and communication will shape your client behavior. Clients behave according to the structure you will create or allow. So if you allow and or do texting at all hours, you will get texting at all hours. If you allow feedback to come in scattered across email, DM, text, and voice memo, well, then guess what? It will come in via all of these channels. If you allow open-ended timelines, then that is what you will get. But if and when you clearly define the container, this is how feedback is submitted. This is how decisions are made. This is when approvals are due. Most clients will literally follow you right along. They want the project to go well just like you do, right? And when you avoid being clear because you're afraid of sounding rigid, you're not helping yourself or your client. You're just creating confusion, and that confusion will erode the trust. So go look at one thing this week, one onboarding email, one meeting note template, one weekly update, one page on your website. Look at it and ask yourself, is this specific? Is it unmistakable? Would anyone possibly misread it? If not, refine it. Right? This isn't about overhauling entire firm tomorrow. It's about tightening the thread that runs through everything. And Bri is just so insightful about this. She understands that this is one of the foundational ways that strong design firms are built. So, Bri, I want to say thank you for this conversation. So enlightening. Love, love, love it. I do know that to some extent, it feels simple on the surface. We're just talking about communication, right? But I do know that the implications of good or bad communication are real. They're big. They're real and they're big. So when you change how you communicate, clients respond differently. And when clients respond differently, projects run differently. All right? Now, before we go, if you happen to be listening to this in real time, March 2026, Luann University classes are open. Okay. The enrollment is ending on March 8th, Sunday, March 8th, 2026. Classes start the week of March 9th. Luann University, my friends, is not theory. It is not casual conversation or fluff. Every class is built to teach you the mechanics that actually drive profit in your interior design or window treatment business, how to run the business behind the business, how to protect your margins, how to communicate expectations without hedging, how to structure for growth. All right, go to luannuniversity.com to see the full roster of courses and sign up while you still can. All right, Bri, thanks again for being practical and specific, two of my favorite things. And if this resonated with you, this conversation with Bri, please go visit briussery.com, briussery.com. Download her resource deck, The Architecture of Communication. We've got a goodie for you too. We created a one-page audit to help you apply Bri's knowledge that she shared with us today right away. You can download it by going to luannniagara.com/goodies. As always, thank you tons for listening. You're building a business. You are responsible for real outcomes. And the fact that you are here means that you care about doing it well. And I'm sending you a virtual high five. Thanks tons for joining me. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannniagara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.